Now, the terrible thing about shame is that shame is a feeling, and like all feelings, it rises and falls. But if you get shamed over and over again, if you've got shame-based parents, let's say your parent is an addict and the other parent is a codependent, those are not people who love themselves or have any reality. So they're shame-based. They couldn't possibly teach you how to love yourself or love anybody else because they're already shame-based. I've said it 20 times in this series. How can you teach somebody to love themselves if you don't love yourself? How could I possibly teach my children how to do that? So just think back. Any of you who are watching right now, did your parents love themselves? Did you see the telltale signs of self-love? That they cared for themselves? They made sure they got their needs met? They were happy because they got their needs met? And if they didn't, then you had modeled for you shame-based people who didn't know how to teach you how to love. They couldn't teach you what they didn't know, and you couldn't learn what wasn't there to learn. So you see, not only is the internalization of shame happening because you're getting shamed by your self-absorbed parents who can't handle your spontaneity, can't handle your instinctual drives, can't handle the kind of narcissistic needs that a little child has. But they were also modeling for us. And then we got our feelings shamed, so that when I was angry, I was told it was one of the 7 deadly sins. When I was sad, I was called a ninny. If I was afraid, it was being a weenie. If I was joyous, there were still children starving in Latin America. So you couldn't be mad, you couldn't be glad, you couldn't be sad, you couldn't be afraid. Not much left in terms of the you remember what functionality is? It's to be vitalized. It's spontaneity, not rigidity, not having, remember, emotions are energy, and if you can't have them, what do? You tense your muscles to stop them from coming. So we're uptights, we're in an uptight generation. So the healing is to get aware of how you were set up in your families, to get aware of how you got stuck back there, what role you're carrying, and what feelings are around that role. See, for me, my God, I was enraged. I would go into bars drunk and kick tables over with guys with tattoos, all of them, 6 or 8 of them. You know, they frowned on that. And they frowned on me. It was very self-destructive. And this rage would come in. But sober, it was Gentle John. It was Gentle John, the helper. The one who was helping all others, and this rage, I still hadn't gotten my rage out. It's not all out, I guarantee you. I mean, you can hear it sometimes. Some of you have come up and said, "You're really mad tonight, John," because there's rage in there. There's rage. The setups that my daddy was never there, and that I was set up to be my brother's daddy and my mother's husband, and oh my God. Children are supposed to be children. There was a time, oh tender elf, when you were poetry itself. See, what happened? We all got waylaid. And so there's got to be a way to get back to that. So I've got to understand that very early on. Now you can really understand it better when you think of severe abuse, that people dissociate. Remember I talked last week about a woman 35 years later remembering the sexual scenes? I had a client one time, 48 years later. When she first described her family to me, it was wonderful, church-going people. I knew something was wrong. She was married to her 4th brutal alcoholic. She was totally codependent. The guy had set her up to whore for him. These were upper middle class people too. And finally one day she just broke down and began to weep and told me that from 8 years old to 13 years old, she performed oral sex on her father. It took her 40 years to get back to those memories. Now, see, in one sense, God has given us these denial systems, what Freud called the ego defenses. And they're salvific. If that girl didn't know how to dissociate and block out those memories, no telling what would have happened to her. If I hadn't known how to cut off my feelings so I had no more expectations, my daddy couldn't disappoint me anymore because I had no more expectations. I didn't feel anything. There was no way not playing golf or not going fishing was going to cause me to lay there and cry till 2:30 in the morning. I just didn't feel about it, and I had no expectations anymore. You see, that's salvific when you have the ego defense. And the unconscious is very reluctant to give those up. It's like the gorilla that hits the ball 400 yards, takes out his putter and putts 400 yards. All it knows how to do is hit it 400 yards. Once the unconscious knows it's keeping you safe, it goes, now wait a minute. Wait a minute, honey. You've survived. Remember, everything you've done up to now has worked. You're here. You're not dead. And so you see, breaking out of this delusional system, these ego defenses. See, some people can't even bear. I've had people just horrified at this series, at parts of this series that I'm talking about parents. And I'm challenging sacred cows. I'm saying, instead of focusing on honor thy mother and father, what about unless you become as little children? You shall not enter the kingdom. And honor means honesty and dignity and valuing. And children honor their parents by expressing anger. That shows that you've sired a human being and not a vegetable.